You've had your green card for years. You've built a life here. Now you're ready to make it official, to become a U.S. citizen. The naturalization process is real, it works, and millions of people have done it. The interview has a test. The timeline matters. Get this part right and you finish your immigration journey. Get it wrong and you lose months, sometimes years, fixing avoidable mistakes. In this video, you'll learn whether you qualify, whether you can apply faster as a spouse, the steps to file, and the mistake most applicants make. How do I apply for U.S. citizenship? You file Form N-400 with USCIS. Attend a biometrics appointment, complete an interview that includes English and civics tests, and take the oath of allegiance at a citizenship ceremony. In this video, you get 4 chapters. Whether you qualify, whether you can apply faster as a spouse, the steps to file, and the mistakes that delay or deny cases. I'm Giselle Rodriguez, immigration attorney and founder of the law offices of Giselle and Rodriguez. With offices across the United States, hundreds of families have gone through this exact process. And I want to make sure you have everything you need to do this right. I post new videos every day to keep you informed on everything immigration. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing so you never miss one. Before we continue, this video is general information. It is not legal advice. Every case is different. If you're working on this, please speak to an immigration attorney about your specific case. Do I qualify for U.S. citizenship? You qualify if you have held a green card for at least 5 years or 3 years if you're married to a U.S. citizen and you meet the rules on time spent in the U.S., time outside the U.S., good moral character, and basic English and civics ability. 5 things in total. Second, time physically inside the U.S. At least 30 months out of the 5 years before filing. For the 3-year rule, that's 18 months out of the 3 years. Third, keeping the U.S. as your home base. You can't abandon your U.S. residence by living abroad. A single trip outside of the U.S. of 6 months or more can break this, sometimes restarting your eligibility clock entirely. Fourth, good moral character. USCIS reviews the past 5 years, or 3 for the spouse rule, for criminal history, immigration violations, false statements on prior applications, and any conduct that reflects on fitness for citizenship. As of October 2025, USCIS has reinstated in-person neighborhood checks for the first time in 34 years, meaning officers may contact your neighbors, coworkers, or employer. Strong testimonial letters submitted with your application can help avoid delays. Fifth, basic English and civics ability and willingness to take the oath. You must read, write, and speak basic English. Pass a civics test on U.S. history and government, and take the oath of allegiance. Some applicants qualify for English exemptions based on age and how long they've held the green card. Run all 5 before you file. If any answer is uncertain, get clarity before you submit. You've had your green card for 4.5 years. You're already studying for the civics test. You know you can apply early, but you don't know how early. The rule is that you can file up to 90 days before your eligibility date, not earlier. File too early and USCIS denies the application and you lose your filing fee. File at the right time and your interview lines up almost immediately after your eligibility date. Knowing the 90-day early filing window saves you a wasted application and a refund fight. Can I apply for citizenship faster if I'm married to a U.S. citizen? Yes, you can apply after 3 years instead of 5. If you're married to a U.S. citizen and meet 4 specific conditions. 2 years faster but stricter rules. Miss any 4 of the conditions and you wait until the 5-year mark. The 5-year rule is the default. Most green card holders qualify under this timeline. The 3-year rule is the spouse exception. 4 things have to be true to qualify. You've held your green card for at least 3 years. You're married to a U.S. citizen on the day you file and on the day of the interview and throughout the full 3 years. You've been living with the same U.S. citizen spouse for the full 3 years before filing. And your spouse has been a U.S. citizen for the entire 3-year period. The living together requirement is strict. USCIS calls it marital union, actually living together as a married couple. Separation, even informal separation, can break it. If your marriage ends through divorce or your spouse loses citizenship before the interview, you also lose the 3-year option and have to wait until 5 years. 2 years faster, but only if every condition is met for the full 3 years. You and your U.S. citizen spouse have been married for 3 years. You assume you qualify under the 3-year rule. You file early, expecting the faster timeline. At the interview, the officer asks when you and your spouse last lived together. You explain you've been separated for the past 4 months. Informally, no divorce filed. The officer denies the application. The 3-year rule requires living together full 3 years before filing, not just being legally married. You now have to wait until the 5-year mark. Knowing what living together actually means is what protects the application from denial. How do I apply for citizenship step by step? 4 steps. File the citizenship application with supporting documents. Attend the biometrics appointment, complete the interview, including the English and civics tests, and take the oath. Each step has its own timeline. Step 1. File Form N-400 online or by mail. Attach a copy of both sides of your green card, the filing fee, and the required supporting documents. Disclose all addresses, employment, travel outside the U.S. during your green card years and any criminal history. Step 2. Attend the biometrics appointment within a few weeks of filing. Fingerprints, photo, and signature. USCIS runs a complete background check. Miss the appointment without rescheduling and the application can be denied. Step 3. Complete the interview, scheduled a few months after the biometrics. The officer reviews your application line by line, verifies eligibility, asks about your background, and gives the English and civics tests. Important note on the civics test. There are 2 versions in use right now. If you filed before October 20, 2025, you take the 2008 version. If you filed on or after, you take the 2025 version. Different study materials, different passing requirements. Confirm which option applies to your filing date and study the right one. Step 4, take the oath of allegiance. If approved, you attend the oath ceremony, take the oath, return your green card, and receive your certificate of naturalization. You can apply for a U.S. passport that day. Total time from filing to oath typically runs 8 to 15 months, depending on the USCIS office handling your case. You filed your application last year and you received your interview notice. You skim the civic studies guide the night before. You walk into the interview confident. The officer asks the first civic question, you answer it. The second, you answer it. The third, you hesitate. By the 6th question, you've gotten 3 wrong. The officer ends the test. You don't pass, you're scheduled to retake it in 60 to 90 days. 1 more chance before the application is denied. Studying 10 questions the night before is not preparation. Studying the full pool over weeks is what passes the test on the first try. What mistakes do people make applying for citizenship? 3 things. People break their U.S. residence with long trips without realizing it. People underestimate or fail to disclose criminal history, even minor or expunged offenses. And people underprepare for the English and civics test. Each one delays or denies the application. First, breaking U.S. residence with long trips abroad. A single trip outside of the U.S. that lasts 6 months or longer creates a presumption that you abandoned your U.S. residence. A trip of a year or more may break it outright. Your eligibility clock can restart from the date you've returned. If you have any single trip of 6 months or more during your green card years, calculate carefully before you file. Second, failing to disclose criminal history. The application asks about every arrest, charge, and conviction, even ones you thought were dismissed, expunged, sealed, or were juvenile. It also asks about traffic violations over a certain dollar amount, immigration violations, and false claims to U.S. citizenship. Failing to disclose anything that should have been disclosed is itself a ground for denial and can be treated as fraud, which can lead to citizenship being revoked later. With USCIS doing in-person neighborhood checks again, the review is broader than it has been in decades. Disclose everything, then talk to an attorney about whether what you disclose affects eligibility. Third, under-preparing for the English and civics tests. The civics questions are basic, but the question pool is large. The officer can ask any question from it, and there's a passing threshold. Without studying the full pool over weeks, the failure rate is real. Confirm which test version applies to your filing date and study the full pool over at least a month. The pattern across all three, people file before they're truly ready. Slow down at the start. You took a 7-month trip back home during your green card years. You came back, kept your job, kept your apartment, kept paying U.S. taxes. You assumed the trip was fine. You file for your application 4 years later. At the interview, the officer asks about the trip. You explain. The officer applies the rule. Any trip of 6 months or more creates a presumption that you broke U.S. residence. You now have to prove you didn't abandon it with documents you don't have ready. The case stalls. The trip didn't have to be a problem if you had calculated before filing and brought the proof to the interview. Citizenship is the final step in your immigration journey. You've already done the hard part. You got the green card, you built a life here, you became part of the country. The application is the form that makes it official. Knowing the rules before you file is what turns a serious application into a finished one. If you are starting this, run the 5-part eligibility test. Calculate your time in and out of the U.S. carefully and disclose everything truthfully. And study for the right version of the English and civics tests over weeks, not days. If your situation involves any criminal history, long trips, prior immigration issues, or a denied prior application, please speak to an attorney before you file. If you want help walking through your specific situation, call our office or visit our website. The information is in the description. Book a consultation and we will tell you exactly where you stand. I'm attorney Giselle Rodriguez. You've got this.